Oh, hey, Brent, how are you? Good morning to you. Nice to see you.
Good morning as well, Ken. Good to see you. Good morning,
Yeah,
morning. Things are good here. How are things over there?
yeah, they're good. They're good. I'm actually in Tennessee instead of California today, so it's a little bit. It would be early for me in California to do this, but I decided I would do it since Crypto Nights accidentally came out too early, which was interesting. But yeah, have you got a chance to see it yet? I know you're in Mexico. It's kind of hard to get to view that,
No,
but
no. It's interesting the effort they've gone through to block that. Normally, just hooking it to a VPN is sufficient to, breach those safeguards. But they're being extra clever, and so I was like, oh, rolling my eyes. Okay, I'll get on some kind of AWS jump box later so I can try to check it out. So you told me that I ended up having only one sentence that they actually captured from me, and therefore
it might have been more. I don't remember. I think we walked out, but I don't even think they captured what we said when we walked out. They just captured us fist pumping or something. I don't remember. I'll have to go back and look at it again. It was
mhm,
15 minutes, and it 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 was a good experience for sure, and it kind of accomplished what I was after it accomplishing. Like I had said, I had no delusion that we were going to get raise any money because they it was too big for them, and that's what they said, right? The
yeah.
raise was too big for them. I know they gave up to almost $1 million to somebody else, but we're kind of talking to some people, and they don't want to start with anything less than about 20 million. The people that we're talking to,
Mm.
they don't like to invest in little amounts like 5 million, and I'd rather have them than a little 250K here and 250K there. But I mean, their marketing and stuff like that, they did offer that, which was nice. Once we're live and have some apps out and things like that. Speaking of which, I guess we should probably give kind of a little bit of an update. It's so close that both Justin and I, two of the other programmers, don't have a lot to do, so we're working on other stuff. And when I say we don't have a lot to do, I mean it's the underlying infrastructure side of things, the actual part that communicates between devices and pays out the minions and all that. We have three of our guys, one of a guy named Henrique working on, and two of the part-time guys working on. But Justin and I can't get in there because there's nothing for us to do, and we can't disrupt. Can't kind of pair program with them on that. And so that's how close that part is. But in the meantime, Justin and I have been working on a couple things that were necessary to layer apps on top that will actually allow you to earn tokens and to allow the transactions to happen across that blockchain and networking system. And that's like Justin's working on something I've coined called Chat Genius, and you may not even know about this because him and I have, well, maybe you do. I sent out a document about how we can use DeepSeek and mixture of experts, and we may have talked about this before.
Mhm, yeah.
And so Justin is actually kind of doing a proof of concept. I know it'll work, but he's just making sure it breaks up and everything, and he's getting the same weights and to make sure that it's optimized to do that. And that's a 6-8 week project for sure. But what that'll do is it'll use Genius's infrastructure to basically do a chat program like ChatGPT, but using any number of um, uh, data sets like DeepSeek. So right now we're focusing on DeepSeek. Uh, but a couple Alibaba's come out with one, a couple others have come out with one. And so you'll be able to at least chat, and then we'll scale from there. And I personally been working on something called Squid Router, and what that is it's a cool thing that allows the wallet to actually trade tokens, real tokens, through like Ethereum USDC to Polygon USDC. It's a cross chain um, uh, trading API. And so I was working on that yesterday and almost finished with that. What that allows us to do is have the wallet not only earn you minions. And here's the thing: they can earn you minions on the test net just fine, and then we can transfer them manually to the main net if we want at any time. And so really it's operating pretty much, I would really call this more mainnet beta. And there's actually never a reason for us to ever get off of testnet if we don't have to. Like if there's some security concern or something like that, and everybody will still get paid out just like they would if it was mainnet, and it all just happens behind the scenes, and nobody's the wiser. So we could actually ship the products like the wallet, and those minions that you're earning are actually going to end up being real life minions, but we have to manually or set up some kind of I don't know, some kind of automated system that transfers them from testnet to mainnet. And so we could put the wallet out, and you can start using it for trading crypto. And we're going to be integrating something called Banksa or Plaid possibly to buy the crypto tokens as well. And we can wrap buying USDC and GNUS at the same time. So you could basically take a credit card and buy GNUS is what we're after. Now, Banksa offers a direct approach, but it's kind of a little bit expensive to get it onto their system. It's like $12K, plus you have to go through all this due diligence, KYC stuff, which I don't mind doing. But then, it takes them, 3 or 4 weeks to integrate, and you got to go through all the process of all that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure that that's really necessary at this time. And the other concern I have about that is that it's only on Ethereum. And so you have to have centralized exchanges like Bitmart that are trading your token in order for it to work. They don't do DEXs, which is a decentralized exchange like Uniswap. It has to be on like Bitmart. And I talked with MoonPay, and we have to be on like KuCoin or Coinbase or something like that. And so they're free to integrate, but we have to be on one of the bigger exchanges, and that will be after we kind of get this all finished. Then we'll start to see how many transactions we have, how much the token is trading, and then get on other exchanges. The eventual goal is Coinbase, of course, but you got to get some trading volume, and you got to get some liquidity going, and that will happen when people start using the system. The liquidity will just grow pretty rapidly with the AI stuff and things like that. And so it's very organic compared to everybody else. A lot of the liquidity is just trading volume, and a lot of the companies, I forget which, some meme coin is on Coinbase just because of its trading liquidity. It has no utility. It doesn't do anything, right? And they got on Coinbase because the amount of trades that happen. And, that's all well and good, but I want to grow it organically. I don't want to grow it from hype and all that, because that's what kills a project. As soon as people get bored of it, they run away, and then it stops trading, and then the trading starts dwindling. I've seen this before in the pink sheets in the OTC market. So that's why I kind of don't want to do that. But anyway.
In the short term, the kinds of things you're discussing can, they are not specifically oriented towards hype. They're oriented towards substance. And so, it's a process of building momentum, because, we're not out there just cheerleading like, this is our meme. It's associated with Elon Musk. Look at this pretty picture of Elon Musk. No, it's so I appreciate the way you're putting that, this kind of organic. No, really, we're putting down both the infrastructure and the extensions of the capabilities that are part of, that vision of this, being an actual product. So
yeah,
I think that's
it's bigger than just a product. And I kind of figured this out when I was talking with somebody on Telegram. We're an ecosystem, really. It's a platform, ecosystem. And so it's like we're building almost an Ethereum plus type of thing, because we operate as a blockchain, but we have the AI going back and forth. And really the cryptocurrency side of it is really small compared to what the rest of it is, but it's going to be really, really small in terms of technology and what we need to integrate with, right? Well, I say that, but kind of it's been our bane of our existence, to make sure that everything's secure. But in terms of kind of the overall ecosystem of what's happening and what you can do with it, crypto is a small portion of everything, because it's like it does things for games, and yeah, it helps monetize, but it's really a gaming platform or an app platform and a monetization channel that is something is, you can look at our SDK and see, just what you can do with it. Like, for instance, if you really wanted to use our SDK, you wouldn't have to, you don't have to do anything with crypto. You could take our SDK and use it to do a game, a massively multiplayer online game or a peer-to-peer game using our SDK. And not even worry about crypto, because it has libp2p, peer-to-peer protocol built in that you can basically link to and sit there and set up channels and what do they call those? Lobbies, right? And stuff like that, and sit there and have a game, a multiplayer game system by linking to our SDK, right? That's just one portion of it. You have cryptography in there, so you have SSL capabilities in there. You have the ability to store databases decentralized in there. And so this is what I'm talking about. It's much more than just a crypto. It's this huge set of libraries. I think we have 120 repos or something like that. But you could literally, disregard cryptocurrency altogether and use our SDK for a myriad of other things to help you expedite your game to market and not have to worry about programming your own peer-to-peer network, and things like that, or buying somebody else's. And it's all free and open source. So people have to realize the reason. I know there's a question coming up, and I kind of want to address this. Why did you take 8 years? Well, that's why. There's 120 repos that have all these different things that facilitate the ability for peer-to-peer communications and peer-to-peer kind of things. Yeah, it's very, very useful for games and apps, and it's a decentralized peer-to-peer network over just a crypto. And so there's a lot of code that we had to do and fix, and in C++ that we've contributed to over the last 8 years. And then we had to build our own, kind of DAG blockchain and things like that. So if you figure out how much we've actually worked on the blockchain side of things, I would guess it's no more than probably 2 man years, maybe 2.5 man years of working on that part of it. It's all the other part to get rid of, centralized servers completely. It was, Satoshi Nakamoto's dream to basically make sure there was no centralized servers and no control of money. And we're kind of going one step further, as we want to make sure there's no control of any of our data, no control of or any filtering of our data or grabbing our data or any of that kind of stuff that you have with centralized servers, and the ability to choke out a system. And so now we're kind of pretty much choke proof. You can't choke us out, just like Choke Point 2.0 and 1.0 tried to choke out cryptocurrencies, right? I'm like, well, that's all great, but when we launch, there's no way you can shut us down, because it's all completely decentralized. As soon as you have one central point, other than we still use the internet stuff, but even that, thanks to Elon Musk, has been mitigated because he has Starlink, right? And there's mesh networks and all that. So it really is, we're trying to make it bulletproof where, it can't be shut down. The genie's out of the bottle, and, the network is available and at all times. So a little scary, of course, thanks to the Terminator, kind of thing where you couldn't shut it down because there's no central servers and all that too, I believe. But
well, hopefully the Death Star doesn't show up and take out planet Earth, at least not before Elon gets us onto Mars, so we can decentralize a planetary scale. How's that? Interplanetary decentralization.
Yeah, so I guess another topic, yeah, exactly. What was that called? Not Skynet. Yeah, Skynet.
And Skynet. Which, by the way, back in the year like 2006, give or take, I found that like Skynet was an available domain. It was like, oh, I could have bought it. It's like, I wonder if I should buy it. That'd be fun. And then like a week after I had searched for it, sure enough, someone else bought it. And I was thinking, what was I thinking? I should have bought that, for God's sakes. But
Yeah.
oh well.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, I hate to say it, but it kind of almost is like that, because Skynet was, satellites, so you couldn't, shut it down. And here we got Starlink now, which is satellites, right? A bunch of them for worldwide communication and all that. And now, the new administration is talking about the iron or the golden dome across, the U.S., which is a bunch of satellites, there to protect you, right? Protect us from missiles. Well, they can do a lot of other things besides just protect you. They have lasers on those things, shoot down and vaporize people. So I don't know. It's kind of scary, but
yeah, I admit I'm one of those people that the more safety guarantees governments give, the more my eyes kind of narrow a little bit. Like that's might be a poison pill right there, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. There was something else I wanted to talk about too. Kind of the state of AI, really. So in general, what I found is I'm using Claude and Gemini 2.5 and Grok and ChatGPT. I will say that ChatGPT, the new image generator, has impressed me, because I can take a model that I have envisioned, have it generated in the correct kind of artist style that I want, this kind of stylized, fantasy stylized, but it's for my game GNUSpace. And I've been working a little bit on GNUSpace. And then I take that and I put it into something called GNUS.ai, and it generates, like within 2 minutes, a model for me. And then I say, okay, I picked the right one that doesn't have the least amount of errors, and Meshi 5 is pretty good. And then I have it texture it, and it textures it almost like 95% correct, and looks great. It looks lighting. The only thing is the lighting's kind of baked in, and I'm going to unbake it so I can put it into a game. And then there's some really nice texture touch-up tools that you can do. So like sometimes underneath like a hat, it doesn't know what's underneath the hat, and it kind of just guesses what's underneath there. Because if you have a 2D picture, right, and you have a hat, you can't see underneath the hat. But there are ways to give it multiple angles and things like that, which I'm going to probably try next. But I can generate the picture on ChatGPT Image Gen 1, I think it's called, or something like that, or Gen Image 1, in about a minute or two. Put it in Meshi, and in 2 minutes have a model, texture it, clean it up, and so within about 20 minutes, I can have a model. I throw that into, they have their own thing called skinning inside there, adding bones to the model, which allows it to animate. But you can use something for free called, it's on Adobe's site. What is the name of that program? Mixamo. And Mixamo is really good at rigging 2D humans forms. And I can throw it in there, and within about 30 or 40 seconds, maybe a minute, I can get him rigged, pull that out as an FBX file or a GLB file, put that in a game, all within 25 minutes. And full-on character works, everything animates, whole 9 yards, because I have all these animations for humans. Meshi actually has the ability to add bones and skin four-legged creatures as well. So that's kind of cool. But there's also another thing called that I found in Unity called legs or something like that, where you can actually, do creepy crawly kind of creatures with 8 legs and things like that, and animate it in there. And then, the models are easy, within less than 20 minutes, I say less than 30 minutes, I can go from a paragraph of what I want and the style I want to have an in-game model. And I feel so sorry for the artists out there that used to have to spend weeks, a week or two on a model and meshing it and doing all this stuff. And it's just, amazing what it's doing. And this is the reason I mention this is because AI um, isn't isn't going to replace people that are willing to adopt it and use it. Like artists could do this all day long. Why do I need to spend 30 minutes to do this, right? It makes you more efficient, way more efficient. It makes a lot of more indie game developers more, be able to put out their game a lot quicker. So they don't have to go hire an artist that can do up a prototype, things like that. I mean, you still need an artist to come in with the eye, for the lighting and what kind of style it is and whether the texture looks great and all that. Sure. But in general, the reason I mention this is because in programming, and I think we mentioned this before, I'm sitting there using Claude and Grok and ChatGPT and Gemini. Gemini still, they're all vibe coding in Node.js and JavaScript. A lot of the thing is geared for that. You go outside that box, and oh my God, do I have to give it guardrails and correct it about best practices and all that. I haven't tried Codex, or actually I did try Codex, but it was doing so weird things. I gave it a Dart program. I gave it our wallet, and I said, here's what I want to do with this. And then I'm watching what it's doing, and it's using like sed or grep to grep through the code. I'm searching for this, and it has all the code, and it fires up an instance to basically try to compile it. But it's really kind of geared towards like NPMs, and Node kind of programs. And for us, Dart isn't Node based, and that's what our wallet is Dart. And I just gave up, and I'm like, I'm not even going to try C++. With our complicated CMake file system, I doubt it's going to be able to figure out how to do that. But I just didn't even want to try because, I spent hours just on Dart watching it do stuff, and I was like, okay, well, it's getting nowhere with this, and it's not that hard of a task. And I can go back to ChatGPT or Claude and say, hey, here's what I want, do this. I mean, Gemini did a fair job, but what really makes me mad is I tell it, if you're going to guess at something and assume something, don't assume. Ask me for the code, because you can't put all the code base sometimes in the thing. And it'll just assume stuff. Oh, well, I thought this is how they would do it. It's like, well, that's not the API I gave you. And so now you just coded something that doesn't work because you thought this is the way it should have been done in the API. Instead of referencing, oh, yeah, you're right, I should have referenced that. That's what it says to me all the time. And so it's not quite there yet, in my opinion, still, but it's a very, very useful tool. It speeds me up because once I get it to know what to do correctly, then it'll spit out 1,000 lines of code for me to type that in, takes forever, right? And so it speeds me up by 10x, but I don't think it right now, unless it has some really massive breakthrough, it's not going to replace me because it doesn't know a lot of it doesn't have my experience and my intuition. Intuition is the problem. It can't intuit things that you've known as a software engineer for many years, Brent. Like you know that you have intuition beyond a lot of programmers that have, will do stuff that you work with, right? You have an intuition over them, and they have an intuition over the junior programmers, and so on, right? Just from experience. And I don't know that AI is ever going to be replace that. And so,
well, yeah, I've noticed that these kinds of tools, they just are ill suited for anything that is large. If you want something, a larger system to be created, first of all, it won't do it for you, and here as I can tell. But even if you were to try to cause it to incrementally feed you the pieces of a larger system, in my experience, it just produces the wrong things. It's like, yeah, that is for example, it will attempt to use some kind of object relational mapping for your front end to talk to your back end, but it's like, yeah, but that's a crappy approach that you're using. There's really much better approaches. This is interesting. This commentary about it accelerates your work, I think, is ties into the recent unfortunate layoff that was at Microsoft, where Satya Nadella said that of the 6,000 or so, many of those people who were laid off were from Washington State. 40% of them were actual software engineers. And, Satya made the claim that, AI is, kind of causing this opportunity for us to reduce workforce. And it made me really pause and reflect. I'm like, okay, really? You're using AI to replace what those software engineers were creating. And in many cases, maybe that's the case. Maybe these were engineers that were doing nothing but little script kiddie things. And if that's the case, okay, I understand. Yet for these larger systems, no, you can't just use AI to replace people who understand how these systems are constructed and what are actually the best practices. And it is odd to see the AI, in my opinion, not understand that and to keep on stumbling with using what I consider to be the certainly not best of breed, cookie cutter solutions. But so, yeah, we are certainly a ways away from, when you can just hit a button and say, drop me a SaaS platform that has all the, following capabilities. And it comes back and says, here you are, sir. Here's your 7.8 million lines of code. That is that entire system done flawlessly, we might add. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
we'll see.
No bugs whatsoever. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing. It even says all the time when you're talking to it, hey, be careful using this code because, it's probably wrong. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. But it still helps. It's an assistant, and really it's a very junior assistant, like a junior software engineer assistant, but they can type freaking fast, right? And once you get it the correct guardrails, you're good to go. Um, well, let's switch off of that subject. Is there any other AI stuff that you've seen out there? I mean, I kind of talked about the graphics generation or the model generation for gaming stuff. There's just so much out there. I watch I see these YouTube videos pop up, and there's like, oh, Gemini 2.5 is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Your job is in danger, and all this hype about this. And then I go watch the video, and I'm like, well, that's not my experience with that thing. It's good, and it can handle a lot of code, but I'm not writing in TypeScript or JavaScript at this point. So it's kind of broken, for other languages. Usually, it seems like.
Well, I mean, as far as other news, I mean, I thought it's interesting. I think it's called Qwen 2 or Qwen 3. I forget what it is.
Qwen 3. I think it is. Yeah.
It can now is a competitor for DeepSeek. A little confusing because DeepSeek actually has like a subproduct that has the name Qwen in it. So apparently that word means something in Chinese that they're now all reusing. But yes, the march into the realm of the technology, AI technology that's supporting, our DPEN network. Clearly, they were building all that just for us. So immense gratitude.
Oh, so I got a great anecdote or piece of evidence about what we've just been talking about. ChatGPT 4 or 5 or their Codex one came out, and they had this beautiful chart of how well it programs, right? And it was like it would get it, and it was like the mark was like 70, 72, 73, 75, right? And I guess that's like a benchmark, right, for how well it codes. But on the x-axis was how many times it took to get it correct. And it was up to eight times. One time it was like a lot lower, and this is what I'm talking about. It's like, oh yeah, you got a great coder there. It took him 8 times to get it right. Why didn't you just, architect it right the first time, right? And that's the guardrails. And I think I've gotten that down to probably 3, iterations on stuff. I've spent 8, and I've spent more than 8 a couple times. But actually, believe it or not, some of the times I've spent more than 8, it was actually another AI had helped me do this open AI specification and had done it wrong. And so it was saying it was, or actually it was a template in OpenAI generator that I had to go modify this thing called a mustache template. Because it would, if something was nullable, it would try to use num.parse instead of num.try-parse. And the try-parse catches if the object is null, and then makes, gives you nothing or null pointer instead of, throwing an exception. And anyway, so I had to go modify that one piece of it and another piece of it where it was setting something to null. And it's like, no, you don't set the thing to null. You just don't include it. It's an optional argument. You just don't set it to null. It's completely optional, right? And this is another coding thing that I guess AI understands, but this particular mustache template did not, wasn't set up correctly. So I fixed all that. But anyway, yeah, it was just kind of fun when I saw that. I should see if I could find that while we're talking, and pull that up and show people. Let me see if I can do that, because
I've had the same problem with the 3 times, 4 times, 5 times of, like, no, undo what you just gave me. That's not right. And it will speak as so matter of fact, like, oh, well, this software is not capable of the following thing. I'm like, it is certainly capable of that. Like, I have to go at it again, like you say, the guardrails, and then finally it comes back and it gives the right code that provides the feature I was looking for. And then it will even say things like, oh, thank you for correcting me on that. I'm like, you're welcome.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, oh, yeah, you're right. That's what it says a lot. Oh, yeah, you're right. Here's the thing I was talking about. Okay, here's your sweet benchmark, right? What does this mean? I don't even know. I mean, accuracy. Oh, yeah. Oh, great. So here's accuracy. You're only 72% accurate. Well, geez, I want my code to be 72% accurate on the first try. Okay, by the second try, we're about 0.77 accurate. Okay, after 4 attempts, oh my God, do I have to have you try this thing 4 times and I have to walk you through it 4 times? 0.8. And I do know to get down here to the 1 time, you have to give it a lot of guardrails and you have to be very specific. You have to be a really good prompt engineer. You have to be able to know kind of what it's doing and stuff like that. But you look, and by 8 times, oh great, it's still only not even quite 85% accurate, right? And so you have to know what you're doing. This is exactly what I was talking about. That other 15%, even after 8 times, you're gonna have to go change the code and know what you're doing of the architecture. You can't just vibe code 15% accuracy and to get 100% accurate code that actually works. And so I kind of, I don't know, maybe I am vibe coding because I'm a software engineer and I know what I'm doing. I mean, I could write it myself, right? It would take me a lot longer, but it would be 100% accurate and it would work because I write unit tests, right? To make sure. But this blows me away. I just don't think people understand that, okay, yeah, you're better than O3 high and you're 75% accurate, accuracy percentage. It's just like, do you want 75% accurate code? I mean, I wouldn't be going out. To me, maybe I'm missing something. After 8 times, how many more times do I have to spend to get to 100%? Here, you just give up and write it yourself, right? The last 15%. That's what happens, right? With you?
I feel like this is some kind of exercise of that Larry Wall principle. The 3 principles of a great engineer, and one of them is that the great engineer is lazy. They're lazy, and so they will do heroic deeds so they can find ways to be lazy. So the heroic deed is like putting in those guardrails, so that you could finally get to, like you say, the 85%, only so that you could just throw back your head to capture the last bit yourself. But hey, you put in a massive effort to otherwise avoid much of the typing that you were talking about.
Well, here's what I do, and I just realized this. What I do is, like, I'll give it too broad of a task, and I've realized to break that down. Okay, and so I will probably get like in here for the broader task if I give it enough guardrails. And then what I do is I break it down even further. And then so I'm 80% accurate on the whole entire, let's say it's a function or something like that, or a set of code, right? And then I'll come back and I'll say, okay, this part is wrong. And then I'll go, and then it'll get that one, it's 0% accurate, and I'll get that 70% accurate. And then I'll break it down. And by the time you get down to a couple lines, it's pretty much 100% accurate, because it can't, with 2 lines, you're either accurate or you're not. It becomes a binary operation, right? Really. Do you have an if statement? Do you not have an if statement, right?
Well, if you think about it, look at what the training data is for all these systems. Very oftentimes, it's just that it poured over every single post ever made on Stack Overflow, for example. And what is it people are posting on Stack Overflow? No one's posting, 800K lines of code or 200K lines of code. It's like someone asks a question and someone comes back and says, here is your 4-line SQL statement that solves your problem. And that's why this AI is so much better at, the more narrow it is, that it actually will give you an accurate result. The wider it is, the more it starts to go off the rails.
Yeah, and this brings me to my point and kind of proves it, I guess, is really, if you don't know that it's not accurate, right? If you don't have the experience to know that it's inaccurate, then
Bingo.
your code's going to explode, or you're going to do something incorrect, and so it may be able to duplicate something that's out there that actually works. If you ask it a specific question, hey, I want something that opens up a HTTPS channel and sends an API call, right? It's been done hundreds of thousands of times in every different language. It can just give you that code, right? And it'll be 100% accurate. But when it comes to architecture and doing something, it's nice and it helps out. But like I said, the first time my more granular I get, the more accurate I start out, and it's like, okay, now you're 80% accurate on this big set of code that I wanted you to do. Okay, so here's this part is inaccurate. Okay, so you're 80%, accurate in that smaller piece, 80% accurate in this smaller piece. Okay, now it's 100% because this lines, and this is kind of the guardrails or the iterative approach to the AI. So, but it's not going to replace me because it doesn't know where it's inaccurate on, because other people have done it different ways, and you personally know from your experience, well, that's not going to work, and here's the things you're going to run into, and that's all from experience. There is somebody mentioned something once that was recently that I thought was kind of interesting on X, and they said, guys like you and I, senior level engineers that have been doing this for a lot of years, how are we going to have more of us if we don't bring in junior level engineers to start learning? Right? And so do you think people are going to start to realize that, when we go away, whether we retire or die or whatever, then who's going to replace us, right? It's not going to be AI. They're going to be, people that are junior level engineers should keep at it, and hopefully we can there's jobs for them now. And Microsoft just laid off 6,000 people. Well, why don't you just train them to use the AI, keep them, because AI by itself, it can make a senior level engineer or even a mid-level engineer more productive for sure. But once they make maybe they retire because they're Bitcoin's at 110. Who knows? But anyway, I thought this was interesting. I know this is kind of getting geared towards software. I think we should probably get back towards Genius and stuff.
This is a geek fest that there's always a bit of a threat.
Sorry, everybody. Brent and I are geeking out a little bit, but it is kind of showing the state of AI in general. All right. So what did Brock think of the patent? All right. So great. Somebody put up a question there. So Brock never followed up. I tried to give him the patent. I tried to ask him. I don't know. It's really weird. I don't want to disparage the guy, but in general, I'm the type of person that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I tried to get in contact with him. He said, yeah. And he said, yeah, a couple times. Yeah, I want to look at the patent. Yeah, I want to look at the patent. And then just nothing. Maybe he's just too busy, and he had one of his guys look at the patent. I've had this happen where people look at the patent and say, it's nothing, don't worry about it. And then he'll just, ignore it. Same thing with our code base. Somebody once, an investor once went and looked at the top level code base called GNUS Network, the repo that houses other repos underneath it. It's kind of like this hierarchical system. He said, it hasn't been updated. The main thing hasn't been updated in years. This thing is vaporware. And it's like, dude, that is just a way for you to get all the code at once. And yeah, we didn't update mainnet, but go look at the individual repos and look at develop and the mains of all those other repos. You don't need to have that repo at all. We just did it for convenience. And yeah, we didn't update it. So I started updating it, randomly when I could, just because some idiot doesn't know how to go down and dive down into our code bases and look at everything we're doing and just go look at my, look at the all the code bases, and it shows you what the top level code base is. It has a graph of what's going on. Oh, well, they haven't done anything for 2 years. You know how long that took that guy to look? Opened up Genius Ventures GitHub, looked at the main page and that main pinned repo and said, oh, there's no activity for 2 years on that one repo, so they must not be doing anything. And then he's like, oh, I don't want to invest because, I told the guy, I said, man, who's your due diligence person? I mean, and so I went and updated it. All I did was, it's really dumb. It's just, you have to update this thing called an ID in there and then push it. And that's it. It's the ID of the other repos and when they were last updated. And it's kind of anyway, it's just that kind of stuff happens. So Brock is kind of the same type of thing where I think he just pawned it off on somebody who discounted it and said, oh, no, this is not useful, or it's not useful at this point until they prove that, it could be embedded in games and stuff like that. I think he got I think he got turned off by the project when he kind of interrupted me about, oh, I've been in the game industry for, probably longer than any of you guys. And I was like, Brock, not me. You remember that? I didn't say it to him, but it's like, Brock, no, I've been in the game industry since the early 80s. You don't know what you're talking about. And I've run gaming companies and, all that. I probably know more about gaming than anybody here. No, you don't, Brock.
When he piped up and he started talking that way, it felt a bit like he forgot why he was there. And all of a sudden it was more about, look at my ego than it was like, why are we here right now? And it was silly. But
yeah. And then even Magnus tried to tell him, the 0.003 cents, he's looking at him and he's like, dude, that's per player. You got to multiply that. Like if you have 10,000 players. And then the guy in the back in the episode, like, oh yeah, Brock could earn $28 a year or something. Or he said $18 a year and he miscalculated anyway. $18 a year. That's not going to benefit Brock. He's not going to invest. Dude, that's per player. When you sell something to them for 99 cents, that's per player, but it's only the people that are willing to pay, you 99 cents, right? If you ship a game, and that's very few of the actual players. This is every single player. And he just shut down when he heard the word 0.003. What I should have done is go in there and go, hey, a typical developer, if they have 100,000 users, would make $400,000 a year. Right? Instead of the 0.003. I approached it because they're all about the money. They just don't, like, how much can I make? How much can I make? Right? And me, it's like, it's like, you're going to make a lot, but stop focusing on the money. But anyway, let's go on to the next thing. The good news is they all were very interested. You were standing with me when Kyle Chesse came up to us afterwards, kind of, oh man, love your project, shook my hand, let me know how I can help. And, once you guys get closer to, releasing and all that. And I just, I'm not interested in taking people's investment when we don't need it. Right. This has happened to me over and over again. It's like, you're not going to give me money when I don't need it. I'm not in it for the money. If I don't need your money after launch because we're on the way, I'm not going to give you a discount and so you can make money when we've proven everything and we've taken all the risk. And that's my thing with these guys is there was another episode and I'll talk about that, but let me go ahead and talk about that before I forget. I don't know if you guys remember, I watched one of the episodes. I forget which one it was, but they're all talking about, it was with the game company. What was it called? Something, MP or something like that. Anyway, What he said, what they all said, drives home the point. They all said, "Hey, look, this guy's making. He was making like 17 million a year, or something like that already, and he's bringing these guys in. And I know that can help, right? Because they're getting money for promoting and all that kind of stuff. But what Brock said drives the point home. He was like, "Look, guys, this is like golden because hey, if he fails, he's got that. If our investment fails, we're getting equity too, so we'll get part of the company anyway. So our investments are completely secure. So we're taking no risk on this. So what it is like, okay, I'm going to put in $250,000 because I have zero risk. They're already making $17 million a year. My money's not at risk because I can get it back if I need to, or this and that. And to me, that's they don't deserve to invest in companies like that. They take no risk up front, and this is the heart of why I don't like to take money from people like that. So, all right, amazing news that you're so far along. Will you still be adding more testers? If so, how many might sign up? Yeah, I think as soon as we get this next phase 2 release out, as soon as Enrique's done, then we're going to start to onboard more testers, and it'll be just like, hey, we'll open it up to anybody that we'll just say, here's the link to it. Go ahead and download it and start doing it. So it'll be any number of testers that want to load it up and start doing it, because you actually can actually trade regular old crypto in our wallet too, as part of the testing, and then earn minions in the background, even though they'll be testnet. So it'll be good for us because actually we can earn some fees while you guys are testing. If you do trading at all on crypto, we'll give you, it'll help our ecosystem, and we're using Squid Router, which will give you the best, costs for doing the cross chain swaps and stuff like that. And it'll include Bitcoin, which is cool. All right, from Mac, what differentiates the Genius blockchain from other blockchain, Ethereum, and other blockchains with AI? How would Genius stand out as a blockchain of choice for projects? So several ways. The patent actually kind of explains a lot of this, but because the other blockchains are pretty slow on the transaction side of things, they're not real time. It takes 20, 30 seconds. Can you imagine waiting 20, 30 seconds after you do your AI to actually get paid out? Some of the other ones are Sol's a little faster at spots. Beyond that, they do AI. They don't do AI on your mobile phone, for instance. Like Sol could end up using our infrastructure and paying out in Sol because they're fast enough to do that. But the Genius blockchain also allows us to have zero gas fees, because every device is doing AI is also a blockchain node, and that's how we really differentiate. So a transaction for us is just a transaction. We don't care if it's AI processing transactions or trading crypto transactions or trading NFTs. And so our blockchain basically becomes zero gas fees, because why would I charge our decentralized node who's participating and doing AI and getting paid out in AI? Why would I charge him gas fees when he's actually part of the network? It's like me going, taking cash out of the bank, going to a grocery store, giving them $100 and go, oh, wait a minute, I need to charge myself 3 cents. And so I can only give you $97 because I need to charge myself $3, in gas fees type of, I guess. Yeah. So it's just kind of weird to me that's why we don't charge gas fees on the Genius network. All right, so many other competitors popped up. I guess you guys can read this as well, since simple terms. So a 5-year-old, actually, Eli 5, they call it. Explain like I'm 5. I guess 10 because there's a little bit of technical terms in here. So a lot of them are doing somewhat similar things, but ask yourself this: can any of them be embedded behind a game or an app? Nope. Nobody does that. So we're kind of a hybrid system because there are people that, like Immutable X, that put the blockchain behind games, but it's very cumbersome and it's not the fastest, and they are getting traction, which is great. Okay. And then you have people like Tao that are just doing AI. Well, we do both, and we do both in a negative friction way where, you have to integrate with Immutable X. You have to figure out your tokenomics and all that. With us, you don't have to do any of that. And so, like I said, it's an ecosystem. They don't offer ecosystems. They offer products. And that's the biggest thing, is they offer one-off kind of very vertical products like AI, strictly AI, that does not really, they're all competing with each other. So Tau and Render, they're all competing with each other. We're not competing with any of them because we have a ecosystem, and we can charge a lot lower than they can because we operate on any device. And so our customers and our partners are, game developers or app developers. And then other customers we do kind of compete with them because they're kind of our customers, the game developers and the app developers and things like that, because we help them monetize their games and their apps. But we still have one part of our income is competing with Tau and Render and stuff like that. And that's the enterprise companies that want to do AI that come in. Now, how come we can beat them? Because they have electricity costs, and I've explained this many times. They have capital expenditures. Some of them don't, like Tau probably doesn't. They rent your home computer from you, and they kind of do the same thing. But the one thing, they have a limited set. They're competing. Their capital expenditures or their capital usage, they're all competing for the same space. They're all competing for your home RTX GeForce 4090 system, right, to do this, and for rendering. And the Western world, of course, Western culture has those things because they're $2,000. Do you believe that somebody over in Africa that's sitting with a mobile phone because they were given to it by AT&T has a RTX 4090 that they could add to the system? So they're all using capital products or devices that are Western based that people that have money can afford. They don't need to earn a few cents here and a few cents there. And so ours targets worldwide everybody, ubiquitous for payouts of the AI processing, and that gets us a lot more nodes in the billions compared to the hundreds of thousands that are otherwise there. And so that's the advantage we have over others, is that we're not really competing with them, or we're competing with them in a one portion, like I said, with people, Western companies wanting to pay for AI, for instance. But the guy in Africa who's sitting on his mobile phone doesn't want to have to pay for AI, is not going to spend $20 a month when they make like $80 a year sometimes, or $80 a month. I forget. It's something ridiculously low. They're not going to spend $20 a month doing AI. We're kind of in a bubble in the US and in Western cultures and Western countries, because we think that, oh yeah, $20 a month's no big deal. Well, it's a big deal for a lot of the rest of the world, right? And so we are tapping into those guys, making them money. And so this is where our impact comes in. Nobody else is doing that. What do you think, Brent? I'll let you kind of.
No, I think you kind of squared it away, is that it's the sheer horizontal scalability. Okay, and I'm supposed to be careful about using words that are technically oriented to an audience that goes, did he just say what? Horizontal scalability? though indeed, you've laid it out, that the platform, the ecosystem, helping the example of video games, helping them to monetize so that they could have their own, current in-game currency, et cetera. And where is any and all of that with these, alleged competitors? It's almost like it's, I think what you're talking to is like a Venn diagram. Like we address so much more, and the portion that they address is just this small little piece. And even then it's kind of disjoint because, they really want to, more than anything, leverage that vertical scalability, which, you've been labeling as kind of the Western model. So it's a much more global model that we have, both in terms of geography, I mean, demographic, and in terms of intentional intent, like what are the use cases? And it's so much more broad than what they are offering.
Yeah, and also you just brought up a good point, is that we are the amount of transactions. Think of Visa cards, right? Not all the world has Visa cards or access to it. There's bankless people that can't be debanked or whatever, and they do not have access to Visa cards, right? The whole Western countries and things like that, you wouldn't think that you couldn't get a Visa card to use and things like that, right? It's like so easy to get one. Even if you have to put up $100, you can go down to Walmart and buy a, $50 gift card that is like a Visa card, right? But they can't do that in other countries. And so our monetization, the total addressable market of monetization for us is the worldwide economy. It's not just high-end, U.S. citizens that have a 4090, and so the flow is going. I almost feel like Robin Hood a little bit, but not really. I'm not big on. I'm not big on New World Order kind of stuff, But I digress. We only got about 4 minutes, so I don't want to get into that. But I am big on kind of spreading the wealth or allowing others, the world, that no matter what, if you have some type of GPU, that you're able to monetize that and use it for whatever you need to use it for, whatever money you need to use it for. So that's a great impact investment strategy that I've had from the beginning. All right, so let's go on to this. I've read this already. Are there any plans to offer any referral rewards? I think that's a great idea, actually. We haven't planned on doing anything like that. I didn't even think about it, but yeah, I'm up for talks about that.
Maybe we should go and read it.
Well, I mean, I assume people could read themselves, but okay. As a token holder, I'm eager to see the network succeed, and I have normie friends, normal people, by the way, in case anybody doesn't know what that means. Normie friends with networking who could make this happen with large companies and some governments, but they need some compensation to dive in. Are there any plans for incentive? That kind of goes back to the last one. Yes, we should. I don't know that we have a set plan, but for raising money, we have what's called the layman schedule. We could probably do something like that, where based on, I would definitely do that, because you're basically acting as a sales organization for us. So hell yeah. All right, Eric. Have any blockchain projects reached out to you about partnerships? And if so, can you divulge it? Yeah, several have. I can't really divulge who they are yet. I'm supposed to get on a call with one of them, but there was at least 3 gaming companies that have already reached out. They wanted to know when the SDK was ready. We've given them the SDK. They're kind of evaluating it, but we still need to finish up this last part of phase 2 for it to really be shown that it is fully functional and works, and then we'll add features after that. So I can't divulge too much about it right now, but yeah, we have not really big companies, but like I said, we're after all the indie developers. These are smaller companies that might have like 5 or 6 games, behind them and things like that. It's not like an Electronic Arts or anything like that yet. So, all right. Any other questions there? We've got about another minute or so.
I don't know if we're going to be able to answer anything in a minute.
Yeah, I was just going to see if there's any AAA studios. Yeah. No, not yet. And again, that's not really our target partnerships, because if you think about it, they'll use Immutable X and they want to monetize their game using crypto, and they already can monetize their game without crypto. They're just looking for more monetization. Mm-hmm. And I'm after the people that haven't been able to monetize their games so they can continue to do games. They now don't have to worry about, I'm cutting their costs, just like AI's, speeding me up. I'm cutting their costs for marketing and a bunch of other things. So,
yeah. Well, Ken, we're at time, so I don't think we're going to have to take these questions and kind of roll them into our next session. I see that we've just got another question posted there. I don't know if you're going to want to take that or.
Oh, thank you. Final thoughts. Great insight. It wasn't a question, really.
Oh, okay.
Final insights. You were starting. Go ahead.
Oh. Great insight. Thanks for the chance. Thank you. Final thoughts. Okay, final thoughts for me. I think that this was a good kind of weigh in as to the state of AI. A lot of it was a geek fest about our own musings about how AI helps or doesn't with coding, but also the clarity that we need to communicate, and we need to always communicate it. What differentiates us from others, etc. I think that's just a good thing to revisit. So.
Yeah, and I don't mind doing these, and we should probably pick a topic. I mean, we kind of picked our own topic today and geeked out a little bit. But in general, I think, I love doing these things. And now that, we're kind of not winding down, but coming to the tail end of the ecosystem development side of things, I don't mind having these more often if people, we don't even have to talk about GNUS sometimes. I'd rather have us like an all-in podcast where we could talk about anything, you and I. Maybe we invite a couple more people and stuff like that and see if we can start up a podcast just talking about this, because I really enjoy talking and doing this, and hopefully we get start going viral. That would be great.
Well, we certainly, I think, depending on how you move the guardrails, you move them out just enough, and then the level of how exotic, I could say, the conversation could be, kind of perhaps ramps up quickly. Who knows? You got to balance that carefully.
Yeah, because I don't want to get into some of the things that they get into. Like, it seems like a lot of the biggest podcasts are all about hype or negativity or politics and things like that. And that's, if you want to talk tech, sure, but I don't know how many people are interested in hearing that. All right. Sounds good. I'm going to end the stream now. Thanks, Brent. It's great talking to you today.
Yep. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, everyone, for attending and giving great questions and all that. And I hope this helps everybody kind of understand where we are. On to building products on top of the ecosystem.